Okay, just bear with me for a moment. Good evening and welcome to the White Wave Views broadcast, the WWVB, coming to you live tonight from Auckland, New Zealand by Eddie Morrison, that's me. Now, I've been trying to work another application in with my Facebook Lives, and I just have no idea what I'm doing. You know, I've set this OBS up with the help of somebody else, and I tried it out, and I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but I'm not a technical person. I have lots of other talents and skills, but I'm not that technical. But tonight, carrying on with the Pakeha movement that's been initiated, if you haven't watched my videos before or don't know about what we're doing, we focus on the worldwide war on whites and Christians, the attack on Western culture, the Western way of life. I mean, this Western word, I don't really subscribe to it, but to me, the Caucasian people in the world have done great work, and we just get on with life. And we've come to the point now where we've left all our primitive stuff and the tribal stuff and the clan stuff behind. And, you know, we're just living a life where we're governed by one parliament and they organise everything. And if you don't like it, you've got elections every 3 years. And that's what we have to put up with. Okay, now in between those times, what do the Pakeha do? Where's our workshops and cultural centres and conferences going on about the politics in New Zealand? Well, there isn't anything. We don't have a political institution as an ethnic collective, as a race. In the ancient documents in New Zealand, well, not ancient, it's quite recent, but in the old documents, Pakeha are the other race of the treaty. So we have authority and we should be equal with Maori. It was a bicultural agreement, and if we're going to live in a treaty-centric, if this is just going to be foisted upon us without any consultation or voting or campaigning, then Pakeha have to come in and say, well, wait a minute, we want relativity with Maori, who are mostly European with a little bit of melanated DNA from around the world. We don't think it's fair that we've been sidelined and watching tribunals going on for 50 years without our voice. The Crown doesn't work for a race. They work on behalf of everybody, and they should be concentrating on the shared interests we have, especially the ones that we had with the treaty chiefs, shared interests like Christianity. That should be honoured and very important. Nothing should be overlayering that. And if we're going to have any kind of religion in schools, we used to have Bible classes, and they took that out because they didn't want to have religion in schools. Well, now we've got this Maori religion coming in, dressed up as culture. They've replaced Christianity, they've put a Maori label on it, and they're saying that they had all those values, and that they're trying to erase us out of the picture and say that they don't really need our voice, they don't really need us, and we did it all wrong and all our ways are terrible. Well, I'm sorry, but I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and we had a great society. We had the oneness that everybody's trying to chant for. Now we had it. So we've got to look at what changed it. You know, what destroyed that? What really did ruin the race relationship between Maori and Pakeha that was so good, that we worked together very hard for a long time? We fought against rebellion. We squashed rebellion. That rebellion was treasonous. And all this rebellion today was once treasonous, and the treaty chiefs would be condemning it, and they always did. And we're coming in with the treaty chief voices as well. Okay? If the Maori want to honour the chiefs, which they never really say anymore because they found out what the chiefs said through the tribunal where they go through the old documents, they would have seen in the Kohimara conference records what the treaty chiefs actually said. And every student needs to read those papers and study those papers. This is where we're going wrong. We've left a tiny group of rebellious people to dictate what everything means about our history. And frankly, it's all wrong, and I think the Maori people should sit down. You're still learning what the treaty meant, and you've been out there teaching people all the wrong stuff for 50 years, and it's caused a big problem. Now you've got your mythology into law and into, land management and what have you. And, there's just been so many cases where Maoris have interfered and made people run a gauntlet based on their mythology. Well, excuse me, but the treaty chief said that Christianity was the new tikanga. So everybody should be going by actually bringing the scriptures into our society like we used to. Not beating people over the head with the Bible, but children should be evangelised. That's what the treaty chiefs expected, everybody to be evangelised, which obviously was their people as well. They experienced Christianity as being good, and that's what they wanted, and that's what they expected, and that's what they signed up for as well. Now, to take Christianity out of the school, back in the 90s or 80s, I think they did it, that was a breach of the treaty on the English treaty, on the Pakeha side. So the Pakeha side needs a whole tribunal of our own, because we have grievances past and present. We have the same rights altogether, the Maori and the Pakeha, the two races of the treaty. That's what we're known as. Why is the Pakeha name never mentioned, and it's always sidelined, and nobody likes to be called a Pakeha? The name has been dragged through the mud. Well, that's been orchestrated and designed, folks. Okay, so you've got to embrace the Pakeha, because a very good reason why we're using that name is the golden ticket to the courts. It's a golden ticket to a tribunal, to reserve seats in Parliament, Crown Relations Minister, funding for cultural centres, and everything the Maoris have got. The Crown took land off Pakeha too. We've stolen land as well. The Crown has got a lot to answer for, not just to Maori people, but to Pakeha as well. Okay, and there's a lot of descendants from the Victorian era that are spearheading our movement, which is very basic. We're preparing a colonial mission march for late next year sometime. We're going to spend 1.5 years organising it, and we need some groups in each city and town, and we need one councillor, or we can call them barons, to sort of lead a forum group of people from the community that are Pakeha people, that are concerned about what's happening to our country and our national identity, our heritage, the persecution against colonialism, the decolonisation workshops. And we're funding all of these Maori programs that are basically fundamentally revolting against the Crown, dividing the relationship between Pakeha and Maori, persecuting us. We're not getting our voice in there. We're just not. People might think that we're privileged and that everything's set up for us, but it's not. Everything is set up for everybody else except us, because it's just been normalised that people think that we're privileged and we sort all our own stuff out, and that we've already got wealth and we've already got enough charity, we don't need charity. So most of the charity just gets sent to the Maoris, because it's always pushed out there in the community that it's the brown people that suffer and they're the poorest. No. These Iwis are stinking rich now. But they don't seem to be sharing their money with the everyday Maori that is still struggling. Okay? So this is where it's not fair. There's hundreds of millions of dollars poured into institutions that Maori have created, or that the government has created for them. There's 4,000 Maori organisations, exclusive organisations, and they still say they're marginalised and suppressed. I mean, what? No, we're the ones that are marginalised and suppressed and don't have a cultural centre or Pakeha TV. So this White Wave Youth broadcast is the white man's voice in New Zealand. Okay, because our voices are suppressed because there is this war on us around the world. It's happening around the world. A lot of people are talking about it. And I talk about how it's playing out here in New Zealand, and that these rebellious Maori people, okay, have led and radicalised the youth for a couple of generations now. These are the ones that came out of the 1980s after the Waitangi Tribunal was set up, and all of this stuff came out of it, and just dozens and dozens of protests, and they've never stopped. And it's all designed to just make the Pakeha feel like pariahs. Okay, and we feel it in the community. But nobody's interviewing us about how we feel about the impact of Maorification. No, that's not allowed. You can't say anything bad about them, but you're allowed to persecute and be racist against white people. And I don't like this imported stuff that's come in here as well, that's all gone on top of that. The Palestinians, the rainbow people, the Islamics, the Sikhs, they all seem to be conglomerating together. On the 31st, on Saturday, they're all conglomerating at Aotea Square in Auckland, the same day as Brian Tambaki is having his march supposedly over the bridge. They're not supposed to be going over the bridge, but I think they're going over the bridge, and they're all meeting at Victoria Park, I think at 11 a.m. This Saturday. That's in Auckland. And at the same time, you've got the Palestinians, rainbows, and all of those people that don't like white Christians, or don't like Christians, or don't like white people, are all congregating in the Aotea Square on the same day. You see, these people deliberately like to provoke, and all the provocation, and all the poking the bear, and all the defamation and the slander against Pakeha, all the blasphemy of Christianity and replacing it with Maori witchcraft, when there's not supposed to be any religion in schools. That was the deal. Okay, Christianity was taken out. Nobody voted for that. Most of the country were Christians. And slowly the Christianity has declined because the churches aren't contending for the faith. We're losing it because the Crown is not nurturing Christianity. They're not. They're letting it be removed. They're letting it be blasphemed. And there used to be a law against that in New Zealand too. So we've got 20% of what we're doing is exposing this Maorification and this attempt to co-govern. We don't need to be governed. The treaty didn't give Maori any authority to govern people. They were the ones that needed governing. And we need law and order. It's supposed to be generic. It's not supposed to be racial. Allowing a Maori party in government was a big mistake that the Crown made, and we've got a grievance about that. And everything that's happened since, they've been called out as racists in our government by the New Zealand First Party. They've been told that they're not Indigenous. We've got to break away from the UN. They've overlaid the treaty itself. Maoris are making the treaty whatever they want it to be, and they want you to try and just believe what they say that the Reo version says. But if we don't have our original final English treaty shown to the public, then how can you teach on it? Why are they still hiding that document away? And that's one thing that the Pakeha movement is going to be calling for when we drop our box at the Beehive after a colonial mission march later on next year. That's what we're all about. We're organising for a colonial mission march. We're going for a tribunal, reserve seats in Parliament, and we're going for a Crown Relations Minister, and we want funding for a Pakeha Cultural Centre. We want to have conferences. Every other race is doing it in New Zealand except us. Why aren't we allowed to do it? If we're not allowed to do it, then that's discrimination, and we have cases to make. And that's another reason why we're going under the banner of Pakeha. You don't have to be called a Pakeha, but it's the golden ticket and it has legal and lawful weight, and it's about time it was recognised and acknowledged as being the other race of the treaty. Pakeha and Maori are the ones that should be sitting at a table together deciding what happens with people that come into this country. Okay, because so far what's happening is definitely not something that the majority of the country wants. Our voting systems are dubious. You know, so this is why we need a Pakeha Council. So we can come together, put our heads together, have a think tank, have a mastermind, create groups in the community like every other races. They have their centres and they have their socials, they have their festivals and they have funding. Okay, they've got hundreds of organisations, all of these different races, and they get catered for and looked after and spoken about, and they get honoured, and us, Pakeha, we're just brushed under the carpet. You know, because apparently we need to be punished for some past injustices. No, colonialism was great in this country, and it's never been proven that it wasn't. A lot of these narratives bandied around today aren't even written in historical papers. They're just made up, and this is the problem with allowing rebellious people, which the treaty chiefs warned about. If those rebellious people got into politics, you know, don't let them start political strife and movements. Just be involved with the local council and land management and stuff, okay, and to do with the real estate sales at the time. But then they sold 92% of the country. How much council authority do they want? You can't interfere with land that you've sold. You know, you've got no rights to rename things that are colonial towns and cities and streets and areas where our ancestors landed, you know, being changed to Maori names. And this is an insult and a blight on this country, and it's created hatred for us Pakeha. Okay, anybody that doesn't have a little bit of Maori or Polynesian or melanated in their blood is attacked in this country and all around the world, because somebody that's melanated in their blood, they can always identify as another race, which are all protected. And we're the ones that are left being laughed at and mocked because we've got concerns. I mean, isn't this whole country being focused on people's complaints and grievances and concerns about the last 50 years? How come we're not being heard? We don't have a channel of redress. The Magna Carta's not even taught at school, and we get bashed over the head with a fake treaty, and they're saying that the treaty says the opposite of what it does. I think Maori people need to sit down and stop teaching. One of the things that the Pakeha movement is going to do is very educational. We're going to have our own treaty workshop starting online. A lot of different people are involved in that. But tonight I'm going to just read through a few pages of what the Pakeha movement is actually about. There's 3 branches to it. There's the Pakeha Church, which is where the Queen image has gone, by the way. This is more of a professional political voice, and starting out with a Pakeha media of some kind. And I want other people to help frame and shape it. We need journalists and people that can make some news reports and boots on the ground in places. And we just want to be a central hub for people to lay their complaints with as well, because we're filing complaints and we're also filing historical stories that you want remembered. So I always put my email in the comments afterwards, so you can email us and get on our newsletter list, and also send us in your stories so we can put them on file. And also submissions, we'll be calling for submissions, because when we drop the box at the Beehive at the end of next year, we're going to have all our paperwork together. There's going to be a lot of documents in there, declaration, a petition. There's going to be submissions from people, from Pakeha people who are feeling the pinch and don't like the way our country has changed and how we haven't been consulted or had a voice in that. We want Pakeha people to really submit. Just imagine if there was a bill being passed in Parliament and you're submitting your voice in that. Say the question could be, should Pakeha be relative to Maori in Parliament and have reserve seats as well? Okay, let's just say that that's the hypothetical question. And so you would submit a statement to say why you think that would be a good idea. Okay, so you can send that in to us as well, because we want to be a centralised point. Nobody is interviewing the Pakeha people about the impact this is having on us and our people. You know, the mainstream news is not interviewing people like us who are having a problem with all this mythology coming in when they kick Christianity out, and now they've brought witchcraft and voodoo in. And with all that, you've got the rainbow movement. I mean, Christianity was really the morals and the standards of schooling. The church used to be the school in the old days. If you want to go back to treaty times, then the church was the school, and we set up all the churches with the ACE education program, the Christian education program. At least you've got to have people to have a choice. The Maoris have got a choice. They've been turning schools into kura kaupapa. Well, how about we turn some of the schools into Christian schools? You know, so people have a choice and go back to what we used to do in the 60s and the 70s. Okay, when kids got along in the playground. You know, and nobody thought about whether you were Maori or Pakeha. You know, the first boy I kissed was a Maori. Now I don't even want to stand next to one. You know, Maoris have got to understand where we're coming from too, because if you don't, you know, we are many, and we'll just end up rising up against you, and we're doing it now. We've stayed really quiet. We're the silent majority for a long time, and after 50 years of the curse of the Waitangi Tribunal, everything has turned upside down and everything's worse in every way. Okay, your way hasn't worked. That's the message from us. Your way hasn't worked, and we want intelligent people from the community to come on board with our council. That's really starting with groups in every neighbourhood, in every city and every town. And we start out with having Zooms. I want one person, I want it to be men, because barons were men, and that's our tradition. On the Magna Carta, we need people that are going to exert the common law here in New Zealand and make sure that nothing is going to override it, which there are a lot of things overriding the common law. Okay, so if we want to stand under the Magna Carta common law, we can do that through the Pakeha Council Baron, the baronship, the hierarchy that we have there. We're sort of bringing in an old tradition into the 21st century, which is what everyone else is doing. You know, everyone's doing this. Why can't we? Why are we persecuted for wanting to group up and unify? Oh, because they're worried about white supremacy. Well, you know, we basically ran this country for so long. We built up the industry, made everybody prosperous. We shared all the wealth. Okay, we put good systems in place and everybody was happy. Okay, we were happy. Now, the reason why people are confused and unhappy now is because somebody gave Maori authority to decide to change everything and decolonise, right? Well, this decolonisation, how's it working out for you? Are you enjoying the decolonised New Zealand? Because anybody over 50 that was born in this country is not happy, I can tell you. Most of my followers are people between the age of 40 and 70, and mostly males. So you're the ones that I want. You're the ones that need to take leadership to develop a new council forum in each city and town. You're the men that I want to get on a Zoom with, and together we can help form groups in each area. I can send people your way, or you can find them in your local neighbourhood, like-minded people, and we form a cultural council. Every other race has done it. They've all got councils, except us. We're the only ones that haven't. Okay? So the Pakeha movement, this is what I've got down on a PDF, if anybody wants me to send it to them, what we're about. I still haven't finished it, but I'm trying to get it down on paper. It's actually quite simple, but people have been telling me to get it all down on paper so I can send it to people. So the Pakeha movement is about unifying New Zealand, okay? New Zealanders, as New Zealanders. We all find a common ground, and we're all New Zealanders. If you're a citizen here, you're a New Zealander. Okay? So it's about unifying New Zealand. Okay, but it's spearheaded by the Pakeha people, because that's our culture. Okay, we come in and we solve problems. That's what we do. We're humanitarian, we're evangelical, and we need some humanising. Us Pakeha, we've been dehumanised to an ism, or the coloniser. I mean, we're living beings, thank you very much, and we don't appreciate being called all those labels. And because you've done it for so long, we're rising up now, and you're going to be laughing on the other side of your face when we get some control back, because we will, because we've got the numbers, and the treaty chiefs did warn not to get on the bad side of the Pakeha, right? Yeah. So the three main things about the Pakeha movement are fostering bonds between us. That's between Pakeha people. We're not used to doing it. We left our clanship long ago, but we need to clan up again, and we need to start staking out our territories of where our ancestors came. Everybody's having a spiritual layer over regions in New Zealand, and we can do the same thing under the Protestant banner. Okay? We were here first, spiritually. God created it. We're Christians. We inherited the land. We did good works for God. We've got to claim our place and rightful place and start to feel confident about who we are. The second thing is to provide a political platform, which is what the WWVB is, the White Wave Views broadcast, where Pakeha can have a voice. where Pakeha can have a voice. We want Pakeha TV. We want to be relative to Maori according to the treaty, our interests and the same rights, Article 2 and Article 3. Because two can play this game. You know, it's very simple, the articles of the treaty. The third one is to preserve and celebrate colonial culture. You know, the kids have got to get used to how wonderful it was and how wonderful it is. Okay, and we've got to showcase that and display that. And unfortunately, the government isn't really funding a lot of it. But we're starting something new. We literally want a Pakeha cultural centre. And we should be funded for that. They're spending hundreds of millions on refurbishing maraes. Shane Jones, 10 million to Ratana Church. Oh, God. I mean, honestly, they won't give us a cent. You know why? Because we're not corporatised, and we're going to corporatise. So we can be adapting to all of this multiculturalism, because we matter too, right? We're the majority. We created this nation. So our movement has been born organically from an enduring cultural yearning to stop the Maorification of our beloved New Zealand, the gradual creep of co-governance without consent, and reinterpretation of history and the treaty. We dearly love and want to maintain the unique sacred society developed with shared interests that have been divided. It has also become clear that there is a need to define and identify what it is to be Pakeha in the 21st century, with the explosion of identity politics and critical race theory. There is a growing concern over the world war on Western culture and how it is being played out here in New Zealand, with the colonisation programs dominating Māori efforts to jump on that warring waka as a conduit for their own agenda to claim injustices, sovereignty and confiscated land back. We are being forced to comply under duress and agree to compromise our culture. We seek to restore our nation to the truth of our history, the legitimacy of colonialism, and stop an unhinged runaway train from destroying the tracks we forged and sense of belonging to the land as cleansers and game changers. We seek to preserve our shared cultural interests and our rightful place in New Zealand as the other race and partner of the treaty, if it is going to be classed that way. We harbour our own set of grievances and desire to thrive into the future, acknowledged as Ngāti Wikitoria, the forgotten iwi. We have 3 branches under the umbrella movement that will outwork the ministry objectives, each having their own set of problems versus solution strategies that harmonise in synchronicity with the simplicity of doing what we know works and not trying to reinvent the wheel. The 3 branches of the Pakeha movement are the Pakeha Council, which is what I'm coming live from tonight, political and cultural media platform. The second branch is the Pakeha Church, which I'll put the link in below, unifying and expressing the importance of edifying and equipping the church for outreach. This is a new breed of church, by the way. And the third one is the Pakeha Creatives, a team of cultural performers, writers, and coordinated expressions through art. Okay, so that's the 3, the Pakeha Council, the church and the creatives. So you can decide which one you want to fit into, but we're all going to work in synergy together, and we're going to create a foundational cultural platform for generations to come, where our children and grandchildren can have a sense of belonging, a cultural place that they can go, where they can feel understood. We're coping with a lot of racism and a lot of flack. So our people need victim support as well, so we want to provide victim support. All of those general things that a community centre would provide. There's hundreds of maraes all around the country where Maori can go and get whatever assistance that they want, or, you know, I mean, we need to have the equivalent. There's churches, yes, but they're not Pakeha churches. They're for everybody and anybody, and a lot of them have been infiltrated. There's no unity. They're all fractured, and they don't really have a common foundational, they should have, you know, how do I explain this? All of the churches in New Zealand that are Jesus-loving churches, they all go by the same Bible. Well, they're supposed to be going by the same Bible. But when you go to different churches, you find that they have different interpretations. They have different doctrines. They have different ways of looking at things. So they're not all the same. But if we could unify the churches in New Zealand, that would be a force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately, they haven't been watchers on the wall. They haven't contended for the faith, and they've allowed anti-Christian ideologies to pour on in. So there's a huge problem there as well, which is part of the Pakeha Church, is going to bring forth and expose these things and start to bring some messages to the church of how they need to pull their head in and buck their ideas up. And that the work of the missionaries in the history of this country needs to be honoured and promoted and really taught really well in all the churches in New Zealand about our history, to balance us all out and stop our Pakeha children feeling guilty and ashamed in the classroom. It's wrong to alienate them from their roots and make them feel bad about their history and be forced to start being involved in all this Maori culture and what we call witchcraft as Christians. This is a very offensive and insulting thing to us, and nobody cares, except I care. Okay, I care about the Pakeha people, and I care about what's happening in our government. I care about what's happening in our nation, and I care what's happening in the world. And I see it. I've got the foresight. I've got a mandate from God as well. This is like a calling and a ministry for me, and I need other people to come on board and help me. Okay, so I'll leave my email in the comments below. Get in touch with us. Any way that you can help at all to really solidify the foundation of this movement. We really need it. The Maoris have had movements for decades. Well, ever since the turn of the century, they've had movements. The Kingitanga movement was a rebellious movement where they were starting wars everywhere, and we had to fight against them. But they're still functioning today, glorified and funded. It's a bit weird, isn't it, for the Maoris to have parliaments and monarchies, and it used to be treasonous once, but it's not now, so it's a free-for-all. Anyone can do it. Once upon a time, the Pakeha tried to form a council back in the treaty times, and that was shut down. It was considered treason. I mean, we've come a long way from the treaty. But if we want to go back there and you know, reflect on those times and bring some of those things forward into the now, if Maori can do it, we can do it too, and we will do it. This is the way we combat it. So I've got a lot of good ideas. In the old days, in the ancient days, I would have been considered as having an occupation called an ideas person, or somebody who would sit and come up with solutions to problems. I'm like that, and I receive a lot of downloads from God as well. He gives me ideas. And I've planned this out. It's very simple. The Colonial Mission March, it's got to be organised because there is a 2-week timeline with it. But it will work. It will work. It's just a matter of coming together and doing it and following a step-by-step plan. Forming those groups in each city and town. Okay, so if you want to be a leader of one of those forum groups, or if you want to be part of a forum group in your city or town, you just email and let us know, okay? So we need people to come forth. En masse, actually. I'm nearly at 1,000 on this page, which is good. My other page is still suspended. I'm hoping to get it back. That had 3,000 on it, the Pakeha protest. It's not easy to have a Pakeha or anything. You just get bombarded because, no, we're not allowed to have a meeting. That's what this society is like in New Zealand. The Pakeha aren't allowed to come together and have a meeting without getting bullied by Maoris at the door. I mean, we would never bully a Maori meeting. We just wouldn't. We wouldn't. We're at home hiding under the couch from the Maori. The mafia, yeah, we are. We're not the dominant ones. They are. They got the boot on our head. Interfering with everything and everywhere. You know. That wasn't the deal. And it's changed a lot. It's made everything worse. So we can come in there and have our voices heard. And we've got to start somewhere, okay, guys? We've got to start somewhere. So that's the 3 branches. Due to the increasing number of initiatives, organisations and groups that have progressively formed with common concerns in terms of the threats we face on a cultural level, the necessity for these fractured groups to stand in a united union is naturally innovative and exciting rather than a forced process with a nefarious underlying agenda. We seek to motivate, restore and revive for the benefit of everyone, taking a multifaceted approach. Okay, so corporatising races. Why is New Zealand society in so much racial trouble? We believe the reason why New Zealanders are losing it and being left up shite creek without a paddle comes down to Maori being given all the attention, being set up and herded into corporate iwis, and re-tribalising a successfully integrated interbred populace. This has been proven a big mistake, which the Crown needs to acknowledge and amend. Maori have been misspending the huge amounts of settlement grants and funding on revolutionary intentions to rebel against the Crown and shame the Pakeha into self-loathing traitors and rejection of our heritage as being beneficial. With Maori claiming they never ceded sovereignty and that the white man's religion was forced upon them, the return of the dreaded and intimidating Maori tikanga that was forbidden and condemned by the chiefs as a curse is on our doorstep. We think that the government and indeed Maori iwi need to restore the evolved shared customary relationship we once had and start working together as a trio instead of a duo against us, which was a strong principle of the treaty chiefs, to do nothing that would sever the bond between the 2 races, Maori and Pakeha, not Maori and the Crown. The Crown isn't a race. The Crown isn't a race. The 2 races of the treaty are us and them. Maori and Pakeha. 2 new races, born together, just made up names. Made up names! No bloodline, just starting afresh. First Nations people, us together, sitting together. So therefore we need reserved seats in Parliament, our own electorates, and we're gonna make those electorates. We're gonna set it all up, and hopefully they'll give it to us when we get there with our box. So this is why I want to set up all the groups, because if we get to the beehive and we haven't set up with councillors or people that can fill those spaces, they're just not going to take us seriously. All right, we've got to have the people already set there, like the Maori did. Okay, when they did their land march in 1975, we're going to follow that beaten track. Okay, because they were given unprecedented acquisitions out of that, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be either, and we just used the treaty. Okay, we used the treaty ourselves. Okay, we believe the partnership, participation and protection mantra that the Maoris chant, which is their 3 Ps, by the way, their principles, partnership, participation and protection. That's just all about them. That's them saying the Crown has to partner with them, participate with them and protect them. No. All of that was between the 2 races, the Maori and the Pakeha. Maori have just sidelined us. They don't care about their relationship with us. They're laughing at us. They're cursing us. They're laughing at us. Okay, they think they've got it all in the bag, but we're coming. The storm is coming. This is supposed to be maintained within the community rather than a type of slippery and secret process of a co-governance arrangement with the Crown. See? The movement seeks to de-escalate tension, strengthen support. The movement seeks to de-escalate tension, strengthen and support the Pakeha community during an era that has exploded with confusing information, racial conflict and blurred lines regarding cultural identity in New Zealand history. I reckon this is the worst problem New Zealand has, the culture wars and the identity and the history and the treaty and all of that. It's traumatised people, and a survey done last year found that 50% of people are too scared to speak out about treaty of the history. And why is that? Well, it's because we're being oppressed. Okay, the oppression is upon us. Maori aren't being oppressed. They're getting their voices everywhere. They're happy. They're happy. They just have to keep saying that they're marginalised and that the Crown is exterminating. They keep having to say it to get more. I mean, how much do you want? And why is it being taken off us? Why are we being charged? You're the ones that tried to genocide us in the past, and now we're supposed to be funding you because you re-established under another name and then secretly formed as a monarchy. I mean, are we allowed monarchies in New Zealand? Well, yeah, apparently we are. So a monarchy is another evolvement plan for the Pakeha movement, is to actually evolve into a monarchy. Okay, because we're allowed to have monarchies and queens, kings, parliaments and congresses and councils. We're allowed to. Everyone's doing it. Why can't we? We can. We are going to do it. We just have to break through the normalisation of putting us at the bottom of the list. The image we hold is not so much one of racial pride, but of practical Christian ethics, common law and sacred historical significance that has made up every accolade spoken of us earth-wide. Yes, New Zealand is spoken of very highly around the world. It really is. Some people might think we're a bit wobbly at the moment, but we're going to get it back on track. Because I believe we're the guardians of this country. We inherited, it's God's land, He owns it. We inherited it by doing good works. We mean to counteract the anti-colonisation projects and reject the decolonisation Aotearoa movement, the Pakeha Project mind control campaign, and fake sovereign influences as harmful by raising a standard as a collective that deserves recognition. That's us. A petition for government address, justice and funds to celebrate the humanitarian, evangelical and industrious efforts of our forebears that formed a much adored nation built upon colonialism is overdue. It sure is. As we reflect on, we need New Zealand Day, that's what everyone's saying. As we reflect on past papers, it is clear that the early governance was difficult and ended up being a cold case of kindness gone wrong. The intention of the Pakeha movement is threefold: to foster a regimented uniformity among New Zealand Europeans, to provide a socio-political platform and voice that leads to the formation of a party, to preserve and celebrate our colonial heritage and traditions. So let's expand on each of those and propose some strategies. As I sip my last bit of coffee. Nothing like a bit of cold coffee. So fostering cultural unity, you know, Pakeha are a hard nut to crack. They are. Pakeha are very stubborn and they'll just get put off by the slightest little thing. They're very judgmental and they're not used to coming together, and they'd much rather prefer just belonging to a cliquey little group and being members of a couple of things, but not actually having the insight to amalgamate all of those groups together, even though they have different opinions about things, but amalgamating them under one umbrella that can promote them all based on just basic common sense, common law principles. Okay, that's what the Pakeha culture is. Okay, it's Christianity, it's common sense, it's common law. We're the silent majority because we've had grace and we've allowed things to happen. The Maori got to where they are because of us. You know, but things have gone too far now and we really have to put a stop to it before we lose it altogether. So the fostering the cultural unity focuses on connecting our people online and in the community, bringing them together under one accord to actively engage in a cause to secure our nation's heritage and enjoy freedom of association, which is really important. We're not enjoying freedom of association. We can't come together and have a conference. You can have 4,000 Indigenous people here in Auckland coming from all around the world, you know, coming together like a big racial gang without Pakeha. deliberately leaving white people out because we can't be Indigenous. This is wrong. To do this right under our nose, it's very insulting and offensive. And we're coming for you. We're coming for your rudeness. We're coming for your disrespect, your fake, your fraud and your fiction. We're sick of your slander and your nasty lies about our history. We're going to be teaching the truth of our history. And we're going to go to the kids too. We want people to write Pakeha children's books and write Pakeha children's songs. And we're going to put all the truth in them. We're going to do what Maoris did. And we're hoping to get funding for that too, as being having equal rights. Okay? If you compare Pakeha with Maori and other races in New Zealand, we are very individualistic, self-reliant and non-cultural most of the time. We don't have meetings for Europeans only and make disturbances every weekend about what the government isn't doing. You cannot start a European club or space at universities. We do not live our lives obsessed with our race, flaunting it with branded merch and symbols to try and boost and parade it. The clan of a white New Zealander in the news is never identified, just to name a few factors, and seldom referred to as a Pakeha. However, times have changed and we need to adapt and take a page from their book and create a brand. When threatened or degraded, we are fiercely protective and defensive for good reasons that do not need explaining. We are literally the silent majority that just requires organising and a sacred reason to unify. We need to arrange a big hello. We are still here, Ngāti Wikitoria, the forgotten iwi. Defining the Pakeha identity. This is a hard one. Exploring what it means to be Pakeha historically as well as in the 21st century racially mixed society without being absorbed into a generic New Zealander or European category, being considered as just the wider community or dominant colonials. The common phrase heard is that Pakeha don't have a culture. And yet, ironically, the targeted gaslighting and eager work to decolonise is literally promoted to the point of normalisation, which has left our voices unheard and rightful place invisible. That has been a sore point of contention for Pakeha, offence and downright insult, especially to the pioneering settler families of the Victorian era now being told to go home to England. A renaissance of acknowledging the substance and origins of the people given the name, embracing the title, providing a new mega-trend, redefining what it is to be a native ancestral Pakeha, as opposed to just white or Caucasian people, will be an ongoing work of the members and will assist with Pakeha unification. The social climate around the idea of Pakeha or whites gathering is very strange because we've never done it or needed to exclusively associate as a movement. It is considered a danger for us to conference together now. It may be viewed as racist, offensive and supportive of white supremacy. These are real problems we need to have more nuanced discussions about. This agenda has for 50 years aggressively shamed the colonisers with impunity and little protection from the Crown, who are supposed to be defenders of the faith, a historical decision made with the chiefs. We encourage everyone to not judge harshly the bittersweet journey of the two races, partnering and participating with each other, that forged a bridge from failure to fortitude. The slander disseminated has disengaged us from not only each other and other people groups, but has impacted the mental well-being of our people and caused abuse against our children at school, including alienation from their heritage, pressuring and grooming them to respect other cultures while making them feel ashamed of their own. This long-term accusatory shaming has reduced us to pariahs in our own nation, caused division within families, dehumanises our race, and is the false basis of which many policies and laws are wrapped around that give extra rights control and enormous funding to Maori extremists with mutinous agendas to replace our culture with theirs. We intend to meet this challenge head on. Strategies to fulfill the unity objective. Well, this is going to be the hardest thing to do, is unite Pakeha. For a start, most people don't want to be called Pakeha, so we're uniting the New Zealand Europeans. Okay, the white people of New Zealand, the patriots, the Kiwis, that are sick and tired of being persecuted for being white. They're sick and tired of being of it being normal for people to say that we're born racist, privileged, Nazi supremacists that have generated wealth from stolen land. I mean, this is the mantra that's going around the world with all the melanated, indigenous, native, whatever groups. You know, you can't be native unless you're brown. Well, I'm sorry, but we're native Pakeha. I'm native Pakeha. My family, we've got 8 generations now. We're native. And we're the other race of the treaty. We have a line of Pakeha people, whites. We don't have melanated. We came in 1840, both sides of my family, 1840. One lot in January, the other lot in June. Okay, we're just as close to the land as anybody else. In fact, Christianity, the mountains, with what's happened to Mount Maunganui recently, and the people that perished because of some incompetency with a whole group of people, you can't just blame it on one. It's just a whole group of people being mismanaged. Okay, they're receiving so much money, and I don't know what they're doing with it, but they're not working in synchronicity together. There's just so many things that went wrong there, including the decolonisation of the trees on the mountain. I mean, how bad can it get, this decolonisation? It's just killing people now. I mean, didn't the treaty chiefs say, okay, to leave the old ancestral worshipping everything behind, the old tikanga, and that if it was brought back, that it would bring evil upon the heads of the nation? And haven't we got that now? You know, those old treaty chiefs, the righteous ones, they were prophets. And they prophesied, and they left their last will and testament in the Kohimarama conference records. You can just Google it and read it. That's what the treaty chiefs, their principles are there. If they're going to come from anywhere, they're right there. These iwis today are not the chiefs, and the chiefs don't agree with what they're doing. The chiefs never agreed with rebellion against the Crown or Pakeha. They never agreed with mixing language. They did not agree to Maori being in politics. It's a Pakeha government. Okay, they're governing. The council, yes, be involved with the council. And to not bring back the new tikanga's Christianity, that's what they said, and it was always the way until the Waitangi Tribunal curse came along, and they were instrumental in removing it. And that's one thing we're really pissed off about. We're going to get the Christian Bible classes back into schools by hook or by crook in the name of Jesus. Okay, get the message? Okay, so do not judge harshly the bittersweet journey of the Maori and the Pakeha from the turn of the century of 1800. From the early 1800s, do not judge the bittersweet journey from a modern point of view. Do not blame. You cannot blame a race of people that are coming into the world today, that every white baby that's born here in New Zealand is a neo-Nazi racist. You are just disgusting, teaching your children to hate the white man. And you're going to be sorry for that. The storm is coming. We've had enough. Right? Get the message? The slander disseminated has disengaged us from each other. I've read that. Pressuring grooming kids to respect other cultures while basically disengaging from their own. Yes. Okay, now, how are we going to fulfill the unity objective, uniting Pakeha? So we're going to have nationwide marketing campaigns. And we need people that are digital creators. If you could help us by putting together some digital creations, that would be fantastic. Calling for New Zealand, European Kiwis to register with an online database being the first phase with a novelty goal of 1 million voices by 2027. 1 million voices, New Zealand Europeans, by 2027. We need numbers and the means to rally the masses to unify with a common goal and attend planned events such as Colonial Mission March to the Beehive. So this mission march, don't imagine what it might be, because it's going to be well executed. Okay, it's not just going to be a spontaneous. You can't do spontaneous protests as Pakeha. We'd get eaten alive and we would get bullied by everybody. So this is going to be a very wise, well executed, march to Parliament. Okay, we've got some good ideas going on here. So getting the Pakeha Kiwis to register, and so the register at the moment is basically just the email, getting on our newsletter list, but there will be a website developed. We need people to help web develop too. If anybody wants to volunteer to help me with that and actually run the website, it'd be a really exciting thing once it gets off the ground. We're going to be the next cultural megatrend. People are sick of the Maori, they've got fatigue. We're going to have a new haka too. It's called the Pakeha Haka. And it's going to be a performance that educates people to the true meaning of the haka. Okay, which is the testimony of the chief becoming a Christian. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Every time they do the haka, that's actually what they're saying. They just don't even know it. There's a lot of misappropriation going on. Okay, they have captured they've taken old things and brought them into the now and twisted it all around, changed it and confused everybody and put different definitions, and they're doing it everywhere. And we think it's wrong. There needs to be some kind of bloody limitation on this, because now all these false stories and these made up things and these mixed together of these languages are getting into law and stuff. That's where the buck stops with me. So unifying to a common goal. Okay, form a council body, which is what this page is. It's just a page at the moment, but it's going to be real live people in the community soon. Hustle the best of us into a round table situation in each region to obtain relativity with the Maori and other races in New Zealand who feel the need to convene as a unit where they set up politically charged councils and associations with a uniform leadership of self-servants and preservers. But when it comes to whites forming groups, it faces enormous backlash even from our own kind. Our council will be traditionally patterned from the 25 barons of the Magna Carta that chair synchronised activity groups and act as a mediation panel between the people and the Crown, with provision to enact the Magna Carta as a collective force, keeping the government in check. So the Maoris are sitting there with their tribunal thinking, oh, we're keeping the government in check, making sure they don't breach the treaty on us. Well, we're going to keep the government in check too, making sure they don't breach the English treaty on us, which they have. Okay, we're entitled to have exactly the same kind of Congress as every other race here, and we're going to do it, and nobody's going to stop us. Get the message? 25 barons of the Magna Carta, our constitution, a collective force. Okay, so we can initiate redress. This is our traditional Commonwealth right. When people fear the government, we have tyranny. When the government fears us, we have freedom or democracy. Functioning as a non-governmental organisation, the Pakeha Council is a significant and natural development in New Zealand's evolving constitutional conversation. While not part of the formal state structure like the Waitangi Tribunal, the formation of such a council reflects growing unrest with a desire amongst most New Zealanders of European descent to create a collective cultural voice for their side of the treaty partnership. The role of the newly formed Pakeha Council is to operate a centralised body that feeds down to regional group forums in every city led by a councillor or a baron, who will campaign to recruit membership and support the first phase of unification in one purposeful accord, which is the Colonial Mission March 2027. Date to be advised. We want a seat at the table. It is our right to be consulted, help devise solutions as a corporate body instead of floundering individuals bloated with defeat, lost in a sea of multiculture, or with aggressive desires to be noticed. It feels like a competition to be seen and heard, and we're coming last. That's true, folks. We are coming last. We're the bottom of the list. Pakeha paralysis is the term that has been coined for this apathy that needs addressing to rally New Zealand Europeans into a collective necessary mindset while being individuals with self-reliance and varying beliefs. The Council functions exclusively for the needs of the European New Zealanders on a native cultural level, with a philosophy of edifying and equipping our members to be confident to speak our mind and proud to defend our history through proper education, as well as honouring ancestral characters for their contribution to the colonial success. Only this way can we outreach into other spaces and make sure we have the authority we deserve to help shape and frame our future for our children. We want them to feel safe to congregate and celebrate relative to other cultures, free from harassment, the legislative constraints of the Crown, automated Maori tikanga, and displays of intimidating religious parades intent on labelling us as the racists. It is time to show them all who we really are. Survey, report and recommend. The Pakeha Council will be conducting surveys in the community, making reports and providing recommendations and submissions to Parliament on our members' behalf that may influence lawmaking procedures in a similar way to how the Waitangi Tribunal works. With this endeavour, we can be involved in positively influencing policy making without actually being a party in the House, with reserved seats, like we should be. But that's another dynamic strategy we insert into the mix with the paperwork handed over at the Colonial Mission March. If we already have a network and managers set up, it will be more favourable for us when we make our requests. With how the Waitangi Tribunal has evolved into a form of governing body for Māori, they have enjoyed a monopolising ability and authority to scour archives, decolonise the data, create new frameworks, develop a new fabricated culture, input into AI, revise and back-translate the treaty, veto the English treaty when discovered, plus much more. All of these moves without our voice has had terrible impacts and near on destroyed everything we stood for as one people, under one flag, being under one law. All of this Maorification and these facets of impressions are hollowing out the basic reason for living. It's like I said, it's horrible living as a Pakeha in New Zealand. You know, where the Maori and these other people have just picked up this bandwagon of the worldwide war on Western culture, and they're just hammering us. You know, I mean, I feel like the cross of Christ is really the only thing that's standing between these, you know, these cannibal-minded, rebellious Maori and our throats. I mean, it's just law and order and the cross of Christ that keeps us safe, and that's why we need Christianity. That's why we need it. That's why we need to be centralising our life on the Word of God. That was what the treaty was about. Part of it was bringing the Word of God, and that's the interest that was shared with the treaty chiefs. Okay, leaving the old tikanga behind and bringing in the new one, and that's what needs to be upheld in this country, and we're going to make sure it bloody well is, if you know what I mean. What started as a legitimate cry to keep remaining land in Maori hands, this is, I should put in there, this is referring to the Maori Land March in 1975. So what started as a legitimate cry to keep remaining land in Maori hands morphed into a monster eating away at our national heritage, replacing our parliament construct with theirs piece by piece. I have a sneaky suspicion that some MPs will welcome any help they can muster from us to quell the tribal chaos in the chambers, from who we can conjure some support and even a bag of funding as a start-up grant. Wouldn't that be nice? Maybe they could think about working together with Pakeha for a change. And to do that we need to have a corporate council, because otherwise we're just individual citizens and families that don't have an interface with them. You've really got to understand what I mean by corporatising the Pakeha name. It's very important, and we better do it quick before they take up all the space there on the internet, knowing what we're doing, because we're not hiding anything. There's no secret here. We're just telling people what we're doing, and we're going to do it while we're doing it. Delphi groups. Forming Delphi groups is a great tactic for influencing at local council and political meetings, and also online groups. Once you have enough members, you can create local Delphi groups that attend political meetings separately, as if they are not acquainted, but submit or express the collective view vote. Although somewhat deceptive, it brings fairness when the left and right-wing ideology is at play, where an attending group of people from a particular organisation could be classed as white supremacists or counted as just one collective voice. Direct accountability. Providing a channel for Pakeha to have past and present grievances addressed through a bespoke settler tribunal has become a well worth requesting. Holding the government to account regarding how treaty settlements and policies have negatively affected and disenfranchised the New Zealand European voice, acting as a counterbalance to iwi chair forum echo chambers intent on suppressing Pakeha views. Okay, the council structure. Media. The obvious initial strategy would be to utilise the growing movement database to find members with qualifications, equipment, studios, existing skills and experience in media to come together, brainstorm and spearhead this component using branded material, especially contacting those who already have popular alternate news channels and podcast platforms of influence to collaborate in a united campaign to partner with us on a series of episodes that highlight the concerns and hopes of New Zealand Europeans, as well as cover organised cultural events. We need people who already have podcasts and channels. I mean, you're lucky you've got channels. I don't have equipment in a studio or anything like that. I mean, those people that do have, they're lucky. They're lucky to have that influence, and I think those people that are like-minded with us, they want to take our country back. You people need to promote everybody else that's trying to give it a go as well and bring us all in. We're all a component of the one big whole scope of how we can do this. As the majority of this country, we're the majority because we deserve it. We inherited this country because we did good works. We shared all the wealth, and now there's being an unlawful transfer of wealth from the taxpayer to Maori rebellious organisations, and all they're doing is planning a coup d'etat, and all they're doing is persecuting Pakeha. Mixing languages was a really bad thing. It's causing a huge problem mixing Te Reo with English. The treaty chiefs explained it. The governors agreed that it shouldn't be mixed, especially in commerce and in business, because there's misunderstandings. You can't just speak in English and then just throw a Te Reo word in there thinking that you're helping everybody learn Te Reo. No, you are causing a problem. Okay, the same problem as the treaty chief said you would be causing. And you're doing it deliberately. You're taking away our English words. Okay, you're removing us. You're erasing us. You're taking away the best of us. You're replacing. You're the one that's doing what you're accusing us of doing. And our message to you is, go ahead, do whatever you want. Okay, we're coming for you. Okay, we're coming for the fraud, the fake, and the fiction. Okay, we're sick of your slander and your defamation. We're tired of it. You're the ones that are racist in this country. You're the ones that are obsessed with your own race and your fabricated culture that you've adopted, plagiarised and borrowed off everybody else. You're the ones that are obsessed with the colour of your skin. You're the ones that are Maori all day, every day, and you can't even think of doing anything else in life but fight, fight, fight. Okay, and you've wrecked our country and our race relations doing it. Okay, and so We have to come in. The Pakeha are the guardians here. Okay, we're sent by God and we're still on a mission. Okay, we're on a mission and we haven't finished yet. Okay, we're just getting started. Okay, we're going to form our Pakeha movement in our council, and we will have our reserve seats in tribunal, and we will have a Crown Relations Minister, we will have funding, we'll have Pakeha Music Awards, and we'll have Pakeha everything all day, every day as well, and see how you like it. See how you're looking at us thinking, oh, how terrible and racist. Look at these Pakeha coming together. Pakeha this, Pakeha that. Look at the white supremacy. Well, you know what? You ain't seen nothing yet. You're calling us racist before, okay, when we weren't even coming together and having conferences or having Pakeha or anything. You're the ones that are doing it. You're the ones that are forming thousands of organisations exclusively for yourself. You're the ones that are not diverse. You're the ones that aren't including people. All this diversity, inclusivity and equity, it was just to push us Pakeha white Christians out. That's what it was. You've been pushing us out for decades and decades, and we're coming back now, and we are not happy. Okay? And we've got to get mad about what's happened to our country. We've got to get angry about it. Okay? Because out of that anger is going to come solutions. And so everything that we're doing is solutions-based. Stop moaning about it all. Let's come together and follow a step-by-step plan. And then we'll get somewhere. We have to be patient. We can't do it now, but we can plan something. And that's what life is all about. If you want to be successful, you have to plan and you have to prepare. Okay, so there's more to my Pakeha document here. Trying to get everything down and in a condensed fashion. Well, it's a lot of hard work, it really is. So I've gone through half of it tonight, I've gone over an hour, and so I will read the rest of it another time when I come on next in another couple of days. I'm hoping to have more lessons about this application so I can share the screen and show you documents, and I can have an intro and some music, and maybe I can bring some other people in and talk to other people as well. Because I want this to advance to podcasts. It's just going to morph into something a lot better. We need journalists and photographers and reporters to work for us as well. It's voluntary to begin with, but eventually it will be paid positions. So we are providing opportunities for the future as well. We're going to have our employment agency. We're going to help Pakeha get into work because we're not being employed. These are real issues that we're having a problem with in society, and if people want to laugh and mock at us, then that is just disgusting. That's disgusting, because we've got concerns too, and we need charity as well, and we need help too. Not all of us have inheritance and land and homes and all of that sort of thing. It's the Maoris that have got the free land. They've got the bottomless pit of money. It's them that's got the Pakeha TV and organisations and workshops and all of that. It's them that have their hand in the pie everywhere, not us. So we've got to realise, okay, that we want equalisation and relativity to the rights of the treaty that Maori have got, that we should be having the same, according to Article 2 and 3. Okay, and that's how it goes. So we're coming in a legal, lawful path. That's where the Pakeha name is. And the unification of New Zealanders are fostering unity and coming together and discussing things is more of the human side of New Zealand European. The war on whites, white people themselves have to come together and discuss how we're going to combat it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody else is doing it, and we need to do it through as well and break through the mindset that non-white people have about us. Till next time, love you, cherubs. Bye.